All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am so excited to have an expert on here because you guys do not want me talking to you about AI. I will lead you to the path to nowhere. So I decided to bring on an expert in not only just digital marketing, but what we're seeing in the AI universe, Len Ward, and he is the managing partner at Commexis. Len, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thanks for having me on the show today, Leah.
So, first off, before we even get into this AI, as they heard your bio, I'm pretty sure they were like me, where it's like, why does one in Wall Street, which is like the pinnacle of all careers, we
Mhm.
think, would leave that career and then now you're in the crazy hellhole of marketing and digital marketing and AI?
Yeah. If you were to tell me that 20 something years ago, I would have said you're crazy. That I would have got involved in advertising and marketing, but here I am.
So what was it that drew you to the field? Like why did you decide to make that switch and that leap?
So I was part of, and a lot of people go through it, I was part of like a corporate shakeup 20 some odd years ago. Our bank merged with another bank and obviously, divisions get cut. I had the opportunity to maybe go back into another bank. But I just always had that entrepreneurial bug. And I was like, you know what? I have a couple months, let me, because they were kind of still paying you and so forth. So, I was like, let me take a couple months to kind of figure out what I'm doing. And I devised and came up with a business that I was like, let me give it a shot. So it was basically the very beginning of digital marketing. It was an e-commerce business all the way back in 2004. And what you realize really quickly is that you can't just open up a business online, even 22 years ago. You have to really put some kind of marketing behind it. And that's when I started kind of stumbling on terms like SEO, paid placement, and so forth, when a lot of people had no idea really what it was. So I kind of ran this e-commerce business probably for about, I guess, probably better part about 5, 6 years, and maybe a little less than that. And then you had the housing boom crisis that kind of went, and the events. What we were selling was high-end event tickets. So things think of like great seats for sporting events, Broadway shows, and so forth. People were not buying those types of events when they had to pay their mortgage. So but what happened is I picked up a little bit of know-how in marketing, especially digital marketing. And I actually had a couple people contact me and say, how did you do that? How did you get the website on there? Because I'm thinking about doing it. And that's what happened. I just started hustling. I actually even went back to community college to learn a little bit of coding. I learned every single thing I possibly could about marketing.
Look at you,
Um,
Lynn.
yeah, and I and I started an agency. And I like to say that I was a freelancer. And what happened after that is I walked in one day and I had like 20 some odd employees. I don't even know how it happened. It just was like overnight. It was quick. I was truly part of that startup ramp up in the digital world. So if you kind of played your cards right, you were going to build something. Then so I ran that. Everything was fine. It was a full service agency. Then COVID hit. That kind of shook a lot of things up. And then I guess just kind of the portal where I am right here. I think over the last 4 or 5 years, AI has always been on our radar, but over the last 3 years, it's really gotten on our radar where we've moved from a complete traditional digital marketing firm to now we're really consulting heavily on AI for marketing, sales, customer service, and so forth.
Wow, your story is incredible, and there's several things that I like about your story. The first being that you had this career shift, but you weren't too high on your horse to say, I'm going to go back and learn how to do these new things and learn how to code and learn SEO. I remember when I was taking small business administration classes for free, trying to learn the SEO
Yeah.
thing back in 2008 and before all of the blogs and stuff. And so that really that's very impressive. I think
Thank you.
there's a lot of people who are going to listen who may have multiple business ventures, or maybe there's other avenues they want to get into and somebody has told them that it's too late. And no, listen to Lynn, go back. It's okay
Yeah.
to learn and try something new.
It's
So
never too late until they close the casket on you. It's never too late. So you keep going as long as you can and as hard as you can.
that's right, Lynn. And then the second thing that I liked, I always feel like when something is for you, the resources are there. It's almost like they're just waiting for, it's like a magnet. It's waiting for you to align with it. So here you are, and then you end up getting 20 contractors, and you're just like, okay, I guess this is a thing, and we're going with it. So that
Yeah.
is really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's how it was pretty much.
So tell me, what do you like most about what you do? Because this industry constantly changes and shifts.
Mhm.
You got to stay on top of things. Sometimes it's a huge headache. What keeps you in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because I actually know a few people in the business who are burning out, and they're, I think at my age, when you've been in it this long, it's insanely competitive. PR, marketing, all of it, it's just so competitive right now. There's so many people in there. But the thing that really reignited my passion is definitely AI. And I think the thing that really keeps me in there and focused right now, where I kind of feel like it's a brand new career again, which it is the building of things and how fast you can build things for clients. And I do like that. And I actually, them understanding the shift of we're moving away from search retrieve to solve my problem, and then me kind of going through, the process of this is how you solve people's problems. You have to completely rethink the way you're doing it. So I almost look at myself 20 some odd years ago when I started, and I feel like this is the same version, but 2.0, where it's a whole brand new shift. Because 20 some odd years ago, when you were talking about digital marketing, people can even say SEO. Or they used to say CO, get me on Google or get me on Yahoo. They say actually get me on Yahoo years ago on Netscape. Um, so now it's the same thing. The same questions of what can I use? How does AI help my business? What can I do for AI in marketing? So it's basically the same layout. It's just different verbiage. But I think the answer to that question is definitely it's reignited my passion for marketing because now I'm not, and the people that have been doing marketing, you're not lost in this abyss of, and I'm not knocking anybody, but everybody in the world is trying to be a marketer and they all want to kind of do it. And I think it's great. But now it's like if you really have to understand marketing to really be able to implement that with AI. So I kind of have that new passion where I kind of feel like a young kid again in marketing. And I'm like, all right, I think I know how to do this. I'm going to help people out. So I guess that would be the best point I could give you.
What did you see shift in the industry? Because I remember when it was first being introduced, the conversation online amongst many was like, "Oh my God, it's going to get rid of so many human jobs." And now I feel like it's totally flipped into the other direction where people use it for everything. I mean, I'm a professor, and I remember we were learning about SWOT analysis. And I said, before we try one on a business, let's try one on yourself, like a personal SWOT analysis. So everybody just write down your strengths. And some of my students put their strengths or ask ChatGPT to I was like, why are you putting this in? You do not need open AI
Tell you how
for
good you
your
are. Yeah.
strengths. But I mean,
Yeah.
people are using it now for everything. I guess we're no longer afraid of it, but what are you seeing? What shifts are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, if the shift, we in a marketing world, I think everybody who is in marketing, digital marketing especially, you always heard that growing murmur of this is going to be, we're all going to get outsourced and this is all going to get automated. So, I mean, and this is, so even going back to like 2014, 2015, there was always conversations of there was marketing automation, which we all knew about, but there was something behind it, which was AI. And you would start reading articles because people were testing it. And the first thing that really broke through was IBM Watson. I think it was the first time when people were like, what is this thing? What does it do? But I noticed that shift, right around then because we did toy around with IBM Watson. We didn't like it, but we did walk away saying, if this thing can do what it thinks it's going to do, it's very powerful. But the thing that it was 3.5 years ago when ChatGPT was dropped. I think that's what the shift was. And the minute we got in and looked at it and how quick it came back with answers, and even though the answers 3.5 years ago were really bad, but right there as a marketer, you're like, all right, well, people are no longer going to read your blogs, watch your videos. You better be in a TikTok type mentality or Twitter type mentality, quick, fast, and give me an answer right away. We're moving there. So that was the shift. And I even was like, even going through things with my clients and talking to them about marketing and how they wanted things so quick and so fast. I'm like, see how you're talking to us right now is exactly what your customers are saying. So because you're just a reflection of your book, which is a famous line, you're a reflection of your customers. So you're doing the same thing you're doing.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Lord,
it's true.
man.
So I didn't invent that line. I wish I could, um, but I did say I'm like your AI is going to play a major role. And we're here. So that was the shift I noticed. It was because even my customers, I was noticing they're using ChatGPT. So like you said, with your students, you just got to drop the thing and say, all right, everyone's using it. It's just some people are a power user and some people are using it a little bit, and some people, if their head in the sand, they're afraid of it. And I think those are the three avenues people are standing on right now.
Wow. You that oof. Okay. Well, let's get into some small business marketing trends. Maybe these
Mhm.
are some things that we have heard, or maybe you have some insider scoop. I'm gonna start. I gave you this one already, but I'm gonna start with this one because it's interesting to me. When YouTube's, I guess, CEO did his kind of download of what's coming in the pipeline for YouTube, and he was talking about their introduction of these AI digital twins. And it's not the first time we've heard of this,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking about this as for small businesses in marketing, especially those that have to produce so much content. What are your thoughts on having their AI as a part of the conversation, or like what are your thoughts on these digital twins of human beings?
Well, I think there's going to be no way around it. It's going to be part of it. And and there's a lot of people when you hear podcasts or you read stuff, they're going to be part of the meetings. So, and the digital
Woo!
twin will be there. Yeah, it's scary. It really is. And it's not that hard to do, believe it or not. It's if you create a database and of all the blogs you've ever written, any journal, any notes, any past meetings, anything, because right now you're recording everything everybody is. If you were to upload that into like a chat GPT and make a custom GPT, you realize quickly that it's almost replicating and mimicking every single thing that you're asking it to do, or to kind of, it's almost like yourself. So I do think that is going to be maybe not 2026, but 2027. Digital twins are going to be here. They're already here now. There's a couple of companies. I think there's a company called Delphi. You can actually go to them and you can actually have interactions with it. Like you and I are having this conversation right now, it's so good, you would think that we're having a regular conversation. So for consultants, teachers, maybe people that have to be in five spots at the same time, I think it's going to be something that's real and it's going to be a product you can leverage, but it's coming. There's no question that's going to be here. So you will have your digital twin. And
Ah,
it goes on that crazy thing I read about how some people are saying, because they're struggling with it, where your digital twin will live on long after you, and how do family members feel about that. Somebody famous just signed off on that and
there
actually
was are
said
you talking about the guy where they're gonna have his voice in like all the different languages and he made 900 something million dollars? There's somebody that
it might be
he just
them.
signed
Yeah,
and my eyeballs, I was like, but this is where we're at. But then
this
I'm
is
a
where we're
former
headed.
attorney, and so
Yeah.
I'm thinking about IP.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, we're here. You're like you're famous. You're whoever your favorite artist is for music is not going to pass away. They're going to continue to keep creating music,
Oh wow.
which is crazy. I don't know how we're going to be with that, but digital twins is a real thing, not sci-fi. It's going to be here, and it already exists. You can actually do it right now. The technology is good, not great, but it's good, but good enough where if you're a consultant, I would recommend building a repository and then having this talk over it.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, she's a historian, and she posted on maybe Facebook, and it was just amongst friends, just like, hey, there's this person talking to folks about like history in Dallas, and I can't tell if they're real, and she never blinks. So,
Mm.
but she was like, but her engagement and her following is like huge, and I'm just concerned, is it accurate data? Da, 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 da. And it just sparked this huge conversation, and even some people getting upset with her, just kind of like, well, if it is what it is, like this is where we're at. But I mean, this is in alignment with what you're saying, that people are already using it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the
It's
biggest
all
impact it's
up.
having right now is influencer marketing. You don't realize some of the influencers you're talking to, they're not real. They're avatars. And some people are following some of these things. Pay attention to their lips, pay attention to how they're talking. So even like some of the famous influencers, they're the ones using it even the most. And they're kind of creating tons of content, and it's really not even them. But that's the first place it's really going to hit. And I thought I read somewhere digital influencers, which are exactly what you're talking about, the clones, will most likely be the most important influencers by the year 2028 because of how much constant content they're rolling out. So yeah, that it's here, and it does kind of, you start thinking about business and everything else. It's like, okay, what's real, what's not real. That's why I'm a big believer of, I think we got to start watermarking AI stuff. We really do. There's got to be some sort of thumbprint. You can't let this thing run around and nobody knows what's going on. Because you got to think about the senior citizens and maybe people, who are not really adapt to AI, or they kind of didn't want to do it. That's concerning. You can't have that happen to them. So that's why for me, I'm like, we have to somehow, some way all come together and say, we got to put a thumbprint on this and say, AI generated, human,
Oh
approved
yeah.
or something like that. And we're not there yet. And I don't know when we'll get there.
The journalists aren't having it.
Yeah.
Every single journalist request that I get says no AI, period. And
Mhm.
they run it through a software to see if anything that was sent in the answer or whatever they're going to run online, it was AI generated. If it is, they they write you off. And even in some of the portals that we submit these answers to, if you get too many dings that you use AI, they will disband you know, your login or your subscription. So it's,
Yeah.
people are trying to regulate it, I think, and put some parameters around it. But woo, I mean, but to your point, it's here to stay. So we got to learn to coexist and make it work for our benefit and our good. So
Yep.
you may know some other trends down the pipeline that we'll be able to use as small business owners and as trying to market our products or services. So what else are we seeing?
So for products, I mean, well, the first thing, and I, this is kind of one of the things I stand on. It's one of my pillars of content is, if you're a marketer, if you're a small business owner, you have to read the room and understand that, again, I come back to search and retrieve is dying. Again, you go to Google, you search for a product, you read all the links, and you then come up with an answer for yourself. That's still going to be here to a point, but as we grow with AI, as the younger generation who is now they've raised with AI, as they start becoming your buying public, you now have to pivot all of your content and all of your marketing into, how can I solve people's problems? And you have to identify the problems that your business solves, and then you have to put that pen to paper. You have to then create video on that, podcast, whatever it may be, and really come from an angle of, this is the problem we solve and this is why we do it. Because that's exactly what AI does. It literally solves your problem. It says, what do you have? I'm going to go through every single piece of information I have, and I'm going to come back to you with what I think is about a 99.9% accurate solution to your problem. So that's a huge fundamental shift in marketing, because forever we were always creating like images, and you're creating videos, and you create like great white papers and great slogans. And I think there's all a place for that, but not in the solve my problem world. The solve my problem world is going to be, really calling out the problem right away. And then what do you have underneath to do it? Solve your problem is going to come in various different fashions. It's an AI chatbot on your website. It's going to be maybe somebody interacting with ChatGPT, and you can create a ChatGPT plugin, which I can talk about in a minute, and a myriad of different things. But that's the type of things you want to start thinking about. So if you are a business owner, the best piece of advice I can give you is, you have got to start allocating some of your resources to understanding how AI works within customer service, sales, and marketing, because that's where it's going to impact you first. So that's kind of it there. But I can start touching on a couple of products and things like that I'm looking at, or
Yeah, let's go. I'm like a sponge right now.
okay. All right. So one of the things I think is very interesting that's really under the radar right now, is ChatGPT's apps. Now, I'm going to just talk about ChatGPT just for conversations reasons. However, I am a big fan of Claude, which is great for coding. I am a huge fan of Google's Gemini. I actually think Google's Gemini is probably the best product out there, but I think their adaption's a little slow, contrary to what everybody telling you how it's doing great. I think it's doing okay.
No,
Uh,
you're like probably the fourth or fifth person in a matter of 2 weeks that I've heard say the exact same thing about
Okay,
Gemini.
yeah. So, and I think once they figure it out, Google's going to be Google. But I do give this forecast to people with Google. People think Google are going to figure it out because there's an endless supply of cash because of their marketing. However, 85 to 90%, 85% of the revenue does come from marketing. as more people shift their ad dollars away from Google and look for other places to put it in, that endless reserve of cash is going to start drying up. I know there's a long way to go on that, but it is critical that they get this branding down right and get more people into it. So ChatGPT, we'll go back to that. ChatGPT's goal is to make them the operating system of your life. They literally would like you to work only within ChatGPT. They are in the process of creating products that you're going to walk around with. They have long said that their goal is to get rid of the phone and that there's going to be another product you're going to be with. So strange to think about, but if you were to tell somebody, here's a cell phone in 1992, they would have laughed at you and said, what is that thing? But they have a very interesting product that's really under the radar, and I always wondered why, and it's the apps. So if you go in ChatGPT and hit the plus sign, you'll notice everything drops down below, and you're going to notice there's a bunch of apps, Target, Expedia, bunch of them. You can now interact with these companies all within ChatGPT. You can buy on ChatGPT. You can build out your shopping list. You can build out your vacation. You can check it right now. And
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm doing.
yeah, what's amazing is it's how you build it is you create a custom GPT with all your company's information and everything you do. Then you can portal in things like Shopify and things like that.
Okay.
But the goal of ChatGPT is, all right, you're going to make this your operating system. No matter what you need, you're just going to work within ChatGPT. You're going to put your Target order in. You're going to book your vacation. You're going to maybe do accounting things or legal things, or maybe talk about your business agenda. And you're going to just use various different apps. So what I'm trying to tell people is this: it's not that your website is going to die or go away. I think your website is going to be your repository of all of your information. It's just not going to be the first place people interact with you anymore. They're going to interact with these apps. So these apps are pretty affordable to make. You can do it on your own, although I would recommend having a company help you make it. It's something we do. And prepare for this and test it and train it. Now, I do think ChatGPT is going to find a way to start charging for this, to say, hey, if you want to work with Leah's app, she's going to pay us $5 for every person that clicks and starts interacting with it, and then how much time they're spending on it. They'll monetize that and figure it out. But you're beginning to see an entire shift where, if you think about that, that's one of the very first times you live in an ecosystem. So where ChatGPT is kind of like creating something where you would think well, I'm just on my iPhone. That's true. But the way they're doing it is very, very differently. It's becoming the hub of your life for everything you're doing. So without getting too in the weeds, that's something I think business owners need to really, really be aware of, where in 2026, somebody from your team is going to walk up to you and say, we need to create a ChatGPT app. And I think Google's going to do the same thing. I think Claude to a certain point. So keep that in mind. You want to keep your mind open to things you're going to need to create. And the beauty of this is what I'll say here. I don't think this is going to cost as much as building a website or things we had in the past. Things are going to be much more affordable.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is, yeah, now I've got to go back and play around.
Yeah, it's cool. Look at it. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. It has everything in there. It's really is interesting. And it's only the version 1. They had apps a while ago and they took them away, but this is very different on how they're doing it. It really is amazing.
I have a question while we're on this whole chat GPT thing, and then
Mhm.
you knowing so much about SEO. Because what are they calling it now? Like AIO or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Where,
GEO, AEO, all that. Yeah.
yeah, whereas before we were so focused on, short and long keywords, but now they're telling us to shift to what would somebody be actually saying and putting in ChatGPT, which would be this longer question, like how do
Mhm.
I, like yesterday I was in there typing in, how do I do a road trip from here to here for a 20-year-old? Da, 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 da,
Yeah. Mhm.
What are you seeing in terms of that, where people maybe need to shift their mindset even when it does come to these keywords and SEO and being found?
So I've done SEO since 2005, right around there. I'd like to call myself one of the old school guys of doing it for years. I built my career on it. I built my agency on it. It's what's got me in the front door of any company that does reach out to me because they want to talk about SEO. And I'm the very first to say SEO is going to die. It's everyone's like, oh, everyone's been forecasting it, and I come back and say, I keep coming back saying we're here, we're in a solve my problem world. And SEO is search engine optimization. People are no longer going to be searching. They're going to be asking a question. And that question is going to be they want an answer right away. So
Mhm.
SEO is always predicated on building great pieces of content that you could stack up together and then make your decision. And hopefully that content was just going to be within the website, right? So this blog leads to that blog leads to a
Yeah,
contact form.
yeah.
That's going away because now you're going to be in ChatGPT and that's going to be pulling from a million different sources. So a lot of people are saying, hey, yeah, right. So how do I rank on there and how do I, it's not about ranking. It's about having your brand cited. And
Yeah.
that's the number one thing you want to pay attention to. Build that brand right now. So the old school brand marketing is here. Have a presence on podcast, have a presence on social media, like a real presence. Do these, interactive videos, do the live videos, which is a huge growing trend right now. You have to create all of this type of content where you are trying to solve people's problems. You are giving them advice and trying to help them. And don't think of the old school ways of this is what I have to do for SEO to try to get on Google and still be in search. Look, I think we have 2 feet here. You have one foot that's in the boat, one foot that's on, we'll call it the deck or the dock, and the boat is AI taking off, getting ready to go to another place. And the dock, you still have to keep your foot on there to maintain your composure, right? So you still have to keep both there, but the weight's now shifting over to the boat a little more, if it makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
okay to lift your foot up a little bit and say, I'm going to put a little bit more money in building my brand right now. We're going to look for the right sponsorship opportunities. And I tell people all the time, get on podcasts, start sponsoring things locally. Stop worrying about lead generation and what are all my leads coming in the front door, because overnight, this is going to shift to where all my leads have dried up. My lead generation, I don't know what to do anymore. Well, because you didn't put any money towards building a brand. And that's
Mm.
the biggest problem. Companies, like, go look at law firms and so forth, and we have them as clients. They spend so much money on lead gen, which I get, but they don't put any money behind building the brand. That's where public relations gets involved. Public relations is going to be one of the most important angles in business in the next 2, 3 years. Yeah, you're in a
Say
great
it
spot.
again, Lynn.
Yeah, you're coming in the
Say
golden
it
era.
again.
You
We're
really
coming
are.
in hot.
Yeah, you really are. And I tell people, like, it's mandatory you have the right PR firm working with you and kind of getting that stuff out there. So yeah, so I think when people are thinking about SEO and so forth, I think you still have to invest in it, but I think you have to start building that brand up. So really start allocating your money in places that build the brand up.
I'm so glad that you said that. There was somebody that reached out to me the other day, and it was a guy, or she knew a guy that wrote 2 books, and da 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 da. And the conversation and the subject matter was literally top tier. I was like, this is actually going to go somewhere. I was like, but he hasn't established anything.
Mhm.
And I said, until he works on building his brand, you can have the best book in the world. And I've seen, authors who have written several books making this same mistake. I was like, and especially where we are right now, I was like, it's not going anywhere. So I actually rerouted him to another firm that works just on that alone. Because I'm like, you can't skip that and
Yeah,
say, I want to go on a media tour. I can't do anything with that.
yeah, nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, I
So
can
yeah, that's a
I
problem.
can't do anything with that.
Yeah.
And I'm so 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 glad you said those things. So now that it's just out there, because it's I mean, PR, where sometimes we wonder if we're useful.
No, yeah, I work with a great PR firm, and I mean, I see the value. And when certain companies don't, larger companies that deal with fires and stuff like that, who don't have a PR firm, I don't get it. You can't have
I don't
your
either.
marketer's not putting the fire out. You need your PR person to come in and help this out.
Oh yeah, I turned in a report yesterday, and I'm actually going to pat myself on the back. I won't name the client, but I had to turn in the report, and I was like, we had 62 pieces of coverage in less than a
That's
year.
great.
And I had to sit back and be like, but then I was thinking about the amount of work, and what they've invested in order to get that and to be at the
Mhm.
forefront, that then led to awards and recognition and being the top in what they do. And I'm just like, but it's important because it helps with searches and all those things. And so I was just like, wow, I don't understand. If you're doing it without, great. But it's definitely necessary.
Well, yeah, and to capitalize on what you're saying, it's because that is where the LLMs, large language models, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, and Claude, that's where they're crawling. That's what they're looking for. they're looking for you to be cited. They're looking, it is almost like the old school, way of SEO where you have to be an expert in your industry, right? That was always, so you had to get a backlink. So that was like the way to kind of start ranking for stuff, and then Google start ranking you. Okay, that's true to a point. So some of the game plan that we used in SEO is definitely going to play in the new AI world. But yeah, you do need to be cited. You do need to have the public relations, and brings me to the next point on the marketing that is very uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of business owners, especially business owners my age. Because you got to think about people in their 50s, 40s. They struggled with social media. They struggle with putting posts up. They struggle with pictures of themselves on there. We're a private, generation, just because of the way we were raised. And it was very weird for us to kind of do it. Where the generation after us, this is just what they were used to their whole lives. Well, we're now moving into a world which is even more invasive, and that is the TikTok, the Instagram world, where they're expecting multiple videos of you daily. They're expecting you to go on live. They're expecting all of this. They want it, and if they don't see it, you get some people like, I'm not doing that. You're going to be closed. Your business is literally going to close up because if you're getting away from, and that builds your brand, because if you're getting away from search engine optimization, you're getting away from less and less people not searching for a product. How they're interacting is their screen time and FaceTime with you on social media. And they don't want to see your quick little post. They want to see you talk. So whether that's small clips on, podcast or whatever it may be, even if you're just like something that really typically is not like, marketable, like, I don't really care about that, but they still want to hear you talk. They want to know who you are. And it's almost like you're building a digital relationship before you're committing to the individual.
Yeah.
And that's so the line we like to say, Commexis, is we're at the crossroads of AI and influencer marketing, and companies all sizes, small to large, have to embrace that. So hopefully that makes sense. That's kind of where I think the marketing
No,
world is right now.
it makes a lot of sense. I guess my question with that is we see so much, being raised online about AI slop, is what they're
Yeah, it's
calling it.
bad.
And so if people are kind of participating in this engine to keep going, maybe using their AI digital twin to help,
Mhm.
how can they set themselves apart when there's so much being consumed and so much going into these pipelines? Like, it's almost scary to think like, will I even stand out? Or like,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just too much.
it really is. I mean, so it's almost like there's a couple of thoughts behind that. Number one, I think, we use the term, we like to use the term AI pilot. So no matter where AI goes, no matter what happens with it, you know, or the human race has seen, all kinds of changes that's happened from business, for the last however many thousands of years, right? But the humans are always involved. Even when we had the automations of factories and so forth, you still had, the foremans and so forth who were watching the factory. So what I'm trying to say is, if you monitor all the AI stuff that's coming out and make sure that you look at it and say, okay, that makes sense, and send it out, you're already ahead of 95% of the people out there with the slop, because you can quickly see the slop. And that's going to get old fast because humans are way too smart for that. They're looking at it. And if you're a brand that's just throwing slop out there and not even like reviewing it, you're going to get caught up in this cycle. They're like, oh, they're not even doing any of the work. They're letting AI work at all, which means, why am I paying you if AI is doing all the work? But that comes back to we'll come back to the influencer marketing. Like, well, how do I make my, imprint? What do I do? And that is truly is like an influence. You have to build up your following. So much the same way as years ago, is like, I got to get more followers on social media, like Facebook and all that. You do need to get more views. You do need to have really good content, and you do really need to make sure that you are building up how many people are watching you.
Yeah.
Because I'll say this, the one thing that AI is going to do is it is going to level the field between Jenny, okay, we'll say Jenny and Mike, who just started a business, and they're going against like this behemoth of 10,000 people. Because of AI, what that behemoth doesn't realize, it's not the other behemoth that they're a problem. It's Jenny and Mike. They're going to come from left field because of AI and because of influencer marketing, because they understand how the consumers are digesting stuff, and they're going to knock that company off. You're going to see more large companies fall over the next 2, 3 years by little smaller companies because they did not adapt. So keep that in mind when you're thinking like, I don't know how I'm going to adapt, and I'm never going to get over these big companies. you're going to see David and Goliath all over the place because they're just not going to know how to react. And this is going to be a country which we've been built on entrepreneurs, right? That's what we are. We employ the most people. Everyone's going to have a crack at entrepreneurship in the next 5 years, and hopefully you can take it. I think that's where we're headed.
And I will say, Len, in the news industry, I have been telling them this for a long time. And now we're seeing a lot of news organizations either massive layoffs, shutting down. We just saw Sherry Shepherd's show got canceled yesterday. Kelly Clarkson walked away from her show.
Mhm.
They're even presuming that there's another daytime talk show that's going to shut down by virtue of the fact that the journalists are now doing independent media, utilizing AI and live streams and all of these different methods and knocking out our traditional newsrooms, which I told their asses this was coming a long time ago. And they
Yeah.
told me, we don't have, it would take too much for us to regulate X, Y, and Z, Leah. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm just telling you, bloggers and the influencers are literally going to take your jobs. And
Mhm.
now I'm seeing courses where journalists are teaching influencers journalism so that they can ethically report because they did take their jobs.
Yeah. No, it's here. I agree. No, you're spot on right. It's funny because years ago, Comcast out of Philly, they started buying a bunch of the bloggers and buying all the micro influencers. Like they were buying the platforms. I don't know what happened to a lot of them. I know there was a couple of them for sports that did well. Philly's such a heavy sports town, but I mean, I don't even from like our national or from the Philadelphia region, if you're following about the Flyers, Eagles, Phillies, or Sixers, you're not even really the news. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking at all the local guys, talking about stuff and so forth, which is literally the influencers and and like the micro news. So it is changing, and I tell people when they're concerned about, AI is going to wipe out all the jobs. You're right. They are going to wipe out all the jobs of all the behemoths of 10,000 and 100,000 employees. But what they're not going to do and what it is going to do is like we just talked about, it's going to give you the opportunity to be part of a 1 or 2 person team and potentially make a lot of money because it's going to be the great equalizer. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a lot of people working for themselves. I'm an entrepreneur. You obviously work for yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you have that opportunity to have that work-life balance, to maybe spend more time with your friends and family, why not? So as bad as they're making AI out to be, there's a lot of people like me are in a camp looking over the hill and saying, yeah, but there's a lot of good that could come of it. You keep saying it's bad because maybe a lot of people aren't going to be working for that big company anymore, but I don't see what's bad about making the same amount of money or a little less money, but now I have complete, I have freedom of time. I have freedom to do what I want to do, and I'm still providing for my clients. And I think that's where we're ultimately going to end up. But I do think it's going to be a bit of a rough road till we get there. I really do. Because right now, the misinformation about AI I was talking to somebody today. It's hitting a fever pitch right now. Like some of the stuff, they're just making stuff up now. So, you know,
Well, and this has been awesome. I know sometimes it's a lot to digest, especially when now folks are thinking like, okay, I gotta coexist with like a machine and all this. So they're gonna need a
mhm.
little time. But if they
Yeah.
were gonna do one thing after hearing you speak today, what is the one thing that they can apply to kind of soften the blow and get rocking and rolling?
The best tip I can give people, and now I'm doing so much with AI and writing so much. I don't know if I stole this idea or if it is my idea. So if I stole it, I'm sorry. But if it is my idea, then it is my idea. And maybe people are doing it already. But the best thing that you can do is when you're done your day with ChatGPT, okay, or Gemini, go back in and ask it and say, what did I learn today? What was wrong today? And then tell me what we're going to need to maybe do tomorrow. Print that out, document it, or save it, or put it in your Google Drive or whatever. Every single day, never get up and walk away from AI and say what I learned today and what didn't I learn today and what's the takeaway, however, whatever variation you want to use of that. Because now you're going to start stacking. AI is moving so quick, so fast that people's biggest things are, well, everything's changing. I don't know what to do. So long as you have that journal stacking yourself all the way up, and at the end of the week, go in and read it, you're going to find yourself ramping up quicker and quicker and quicker, and AI is not going to get ahead of you. You're going to stay in lockstep with it the whole way, but you have to ask it what we do right, what we do wrong, and what do I have to do tomorrow. You keep doing that, and you're going to find yourself neck and neck with anybody out there in AI.
That was amazing, Len.
There you go.
Like, we just need you on every episode.
There you go.
This, man, this discussion was so awesome. And then I know there's gonna be people that's like, I don't want to do that. We just want to hire Len and his team. So, how can people find you, get in touch with you, or follow your work?
Yeah, you could just go to commexis.com, commexis.com. You can fill out a contact form. I'm the one that handles all the contact forms. And then we're pretty active on social media, and we're pretty active on our blogs and resources. So even if you just want to join our mailing list, feel free. We send out a pretty good email that's not spammy once a month. That really kind of, how I talk today is pretty much what we put together and get out to clients. It's pretty good.
Well, I'll definitely be signing up. Thank you for your time today, Len. This has been very eye-opening and very timely to have this conversation. And I definitely will be asking my Chat GPT today what I could do better and what it's learned and all that good stuff. And so I'm excited to implement that one step. So we really appreciate you.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. Chat soon.